Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. In the previous session, we said there are three ways that two given things are related to one another. In the realm pertaining to the five senses, and in this physical realm of existence, two things may be identical to one another, they may be mutually exclusive to one another, or one of them may be a subset of another. Then the question arose that what is the relationship between X and Y when X and Y are it's Allah and man. So let's say X is man, Y is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the relationship between X and Y, man and Allah, man and God? Which one of these three is it? Well, the first was man is identical to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's a definite no, so it can't be of this type of relation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is infinite, man is a limited creature, and to say these two are identical, one and the same, that's wrong. And this applies to any creature. And therefore when you say the moon is God or the sun is God, here this would be a wrong statement. If this X is identical to Y and either X or Y is Allah, it's going to be a wrong statement. It's going to be false. Also in relation to man and Allah, not all the things, all attributes which can be predicated onto Allah, they can't be attributed to man. And so here, this first type of relationship, it doesn't hold. Then the question is man and Allah, are they mutually exclusive to one another? And the answer here too is that they're not mutually exclusive. And if one was to say they were mutually exclusive, this would be limiting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if we have two things, if we say they are mutually exclusive to one another, then both X and Y would be limited, at least in one manner, at least in one way. Now it may be in space, time, or any other parameter. So when two things are mutually exclusive, they're both limited. In one tradition, when we read that when one of the companions was asked by Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, what does Allahu Akbar mean? And the companion replied that it means Allah is greater than all things. So they imagined Allah on one side, things on the other side, and Allah is greater than those things, like the sun, the moon, people, plants, animals, and so on and so forth. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam replied, Haddattahu, you've limited Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that person deep down was of the belief that Allah and creation are mutually exclusive. And many people may have such a misunderstanding or a belief which may be traced back to the wrong education, where once upon a time there's Allah and nothingness, and then Allah creates things from nothingness, from non-existence. You see, even that kind of perception of creation is, willingly or unwillingly, you're attributing mutual exclusivity between Allah and creation. Because when out of nothingness Allah creates the sun or the moon, that sun and moon now is mutually exclusive to Allah. And so this too, we don't deem this as a proper relationship between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and creation. Here X and Y, man and Allah, they're not mutually exclusive either. And many Christian interpretations and even Jewish interpretations of God, they do put forward this idea that Allah and creation are mutually exclusive to one another. Then the third, where X is a subset of Y, here let's say X is man or Peter or anyone. Here this human called Peter is a subset of Allah, or is a part, or is a an application of a set. And here the set is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here the whole is Allah, and Peter is a part of this whole. The whole is called Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Peter, X, is the subset, the part or application of this whole. Here, this also we don't accept. If you had digested the previous session, you would quickly come to know why. And the reason here is because why, when you say, for example, X is a subset of Y, and in the previous example we gave in the last session, we said Peter is a subset of a human population. Now that population can be 10, 1,000, a million, it doesn't matter. It's part of a collection of people. It's one application of a group, of a whole. In that example, the Y, the set, the whole, could be divided. But here, when you say Peter is a part of Allah, Allah can't be divided. And a God which is divisible goes against the core of Tawheed. Although I've spoken about this in other lectures, I can't go through it all here, but we don't believe. It goes against the essence of Tawheed to believe in a divisible deity. Also, here, when you say X is a subset of Y, Y is dependent on the subset. Y is needy in relation to the subset to some degree. How? If there's no subset, okay, then, or yes, if the subset is lessened or reduced, the set will lessen or be reduced. Or if there's no set, there'll be no subset. If you remember, that was the relationship between subset and set. However, here, if one application of the subset was to decrease, will the set, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would that decrease too? Because if, remember, with Peter is a subset of the human population, or if you say Peter and Jane are subsets of Y, the human population, if Peter was to be eliminated or taken away, or both Peter and Jane were to be taken away, the set would be compromised. The set, the human population, would decrease. Okay? Now the question is the relationship between Allah and creation that of subset and set? That if you say Peter and Jane are part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if there's no Peter or Jane, would Allah decrease? If the applications were lessened, would Allah lessen or be reduced? And the answer is no, of course. That would go against our core understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Although I'm simplifying it to the best of my capacity. Otherwise, in the books of Irfan, books like Tawheed and other books, they go through this in pages sometimes. But they bring these technical jargon, and I just put aside the technical jargon and simplified it. Although this manner of simplifying may cause problems, but I've done my best to minimize that. Okay, so here we see when X is a subset, when X is a subset of Y, which is the set, here this set is dependent on the subset. And this dependency on the subset, the human population, is dependent on Peter or Peter and Jane or whatever X is. But there is a dependency on the subset, okay, such that if there's no subset, there'll be no set. This dependency, can it qualify when X is man, be it 1, 2, 3, however much, and Y is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And the answer is no. The set Y, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can't attribute dependency to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That goes against our core understanding of Tawheed. It's not like a cup and ocean example, that however much with a cup you take from the ocean will lessen. Let's say the cupfuls of water that you take, that is a subset of the ocean, which is the set. But every application, you say this is a part of the ocean, this cupful of water, but the ocean lessens. This lessening, this reduction, like dependency and being in need of, these are attributes of deficiency, and these can't be attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so the question is, what is the answer? How are we going to sort this out? We've gone through the 3 forms of relations between a given X and Y in the realm pertaining to the senses. None of them can apply to Allah though. When you want to see what the relationship between man, creation, and Allah is, it's not a relationship of identicalness, it's not a relation of mutual exclusivity, and it's not a relationship of one being a subset of the other. So what's the relationship here? And here, when we get stuck in the relationship between Allah and creation, there's one very important prophetic hadith which reads, Man arafa nafsa faqad arafa rabbah. One who knows one's soul has known one's Lord. If you want to see what the relationship between creation and Allah is, you have to acquire gnosis and deep knowledge of one's soul. And how the soul is related to the body. The relationship between the soul and body may bring answers to what the relationship between Allah and creation is. And inshallah, in the next session we'll try to open this up. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.